Finding an unexplained voltage in a well system can be concerning. Let's troubleshoot this systematically. The first thing to consider is stray voltage from nearby electrical sources. Ensure that any other electrical devices or appliances in the vicinity are disconnected and then retest the voltage. Secondly, examine the grounding at the well. Confirm that the well casing is properly grounded using a copper grounding rod. Make sure the grounding rod is driven deep into the ground, ensuring good contact with moist soil. A faulty grounding wire in the underground feeder cable, also known as UFB cable, can also be the culprit. Carefully inspect the ground wire within the UFB cable for any breaks or damage. If you find damage, the cable will need to be replaced. Capacitive coupling between the pump and pressure switch is another possibility. This occurs due to their proximity. Use a voltmeter to measure the voltage from the pump side of the pressure switch to the tank side. If voltage is detected, consider installing an isolation transformer or a ground fault circuit interrupter, also known as GFCI, to mitigate the capacitive coupling. Induced voltage from nearby power lines could also be to blame. Determine if the well is located close to any power lines. Overhead power lines can induce voltage into the well if they are not properly grounded. In such cases, contact the utility company to inspect the power lines and ensure they are properly grounded. Corrosion of metal components within the well system should also be inspected. Examine metal components such as the well casing, pipes, and hydrants for signs of corrosion. Corrosion can create a conductive path for stray voltage. Clean and protect these metal components to prevent further corrosion. Lastly, consider the possibility of other electrical faults in the system. Check for any loose connections, damaged insulation, or short circuits in the electrical system. Use a multimeter to identify any faulty components and repair or replace them. Always remember to prioritize safety. Always disconnect power to the well before performing any maintenance or troubleshooting. Use a voltmeter with high impedance to avoid inaccurate readings. Be aware of the potential for electric shock when working with electrical components. When measuring voltage, it's important to understand the difference between AC and DC voltage. Alternating current, also known as AC voltage, is the type typically found in household circuits, while direct current, also known as DC voltage, is common in batteries and electronic devices. Make sure your multimeter is set to the correct mode, AC or DC, to obtain accurate readings. When checking for grounding issues, use a multimeter to measure the resistance between the well casing and a known good ground, such as a grounding rod driven into the earth. The resistance should be as close to 0 ohms as possible. A high resistance reading indicates a poor ground connection. When inspecting wiring, look for signs of damage such as cracks, cuts, or exposed conductors. Also, check for loose connections at terminals and splices. Loose connections can cause voltage drops and create heat, which can lead to further damage. When working with electrical components, it's always a good idea to wear safety glasses and insulated gloves. These will help protect you from potential hazards such as flying debris and electric shock. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it's best to call a qualified electrician. They have the knowledge, skills, and experience to safely troubleshoot and repair electrical problems. Understanding the basics of electrical safety is essential when working with any electrical system. Always treat electricity with respect and take precautions to avoid injury. If you suspect a problem with the grounding system, it's important to have it inspected by a qualified electrician. A properly grounded system is essential for protecting people and equipment from electrical shock. If you encounter any unusual or unexpected readings while troubleshooting, stop and consult with a qualified electrician. It's always better to be safe than sorry when dealing with electricity. Remember to document your findings as you troubleshoot the system. This will help you keep track of what you've already checked and what still needs to be investigated. Taking pictures or videos can also be helpful for documenting the condition of components and wiring. If you replace any components, be sure to use the correct replacement parts. Using the wrong parts can cause further damage and create a safety hazard. When tightening connections, use the proper torque settings. Over-tightening can damage the components, while under-tightening can cause loose connections. If you are unsure of the proper torque settings, consult the manufacturer's instructions. Always test the system after making any repairs or replacements. This will ensure that the problem has been resolved and that the system is operating safely. When testing the system, use the multimeter to verify that the voltage, current, and resistance readings are within the acceptable ranges. If you encounter any problems, stop and consult with a qualified electrician. It's important to keep the well system clean and free of debris. This will help prevent corrosion and other problems. Regularly inspect the system for any signs of damage or wear and tear. Addressing problems early can prevent them from becoming more serious and costly. When working with electrical components, it's important to use the proper tools. Using the wrong tools can damage the components and create a safety hazard. Always use insulated tools when working with electricity. These tools are designed to protect you from electric shock. Before working on any electrical circuit, always disconnect the power at the main breaker. This will ensure that the circuit is de-energized and safe to work on. Use a voltage tester to verify that the circuit is de-energized before touching any wires or components. If you are not sure how to disconnect the power, consult with a qualified electrician. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions when installing or repairing electrical components. This will ensure that the components are installed correctly and that they will operate safely. If you have any questions, consult with a qualified electrician. They can provide you with the information and guidance you need to safely and effectively troubleshoot and repair the well system. Remember, electricity can be dangerous. Always take precautions to avoid injury. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it's best to call a qualified electrician.